Hello, everyone. Welcome to Shelf Space with Kino Lorber, where we talk about all things physical media with Kino Lorber's head of acquisitions, Frank Tarzi. Today, we're joined by a very special guest, Alonso Duralde. He's a film critic, writer, and co host of the podcasts Linoleum Knife, Breakfast All Day, and Maximum Film. He's also an expert on LGBTQ plus representation in Hollywood, as well as Christmas movies, and has written several books on films, including Hollywood Pride, a celebration of LGBTQ plus representation and perseverance in film, and Have Yourself a Movie Little Christmas. Alonso and Frank will be answering your audience questions, so thank you to everyone who submitted a question ahead of time. If you would like to submit a question for a future episode, be sure to sign up for our newsletter to get on the email list, and be sure to subscribe to the Kino Lorber YouTube channel. If you have any customer service questions, please submit them at the link in the video description below. Hi, Alonso. Hi, Frank. Thank you so much for joining us today, Alonso.
Hey, thank you
Uh,
for having
Hey,
me.
hi. How are you? How
so
you
we
doing,
normally like to
Alonso?
start we normally like to start by asking how you two know each other, but I do believe this is the first time you're meeting. But Alonso,
Yes.
you've worked with others at Kino Lorber. Was it your love of physical media that brought you into the Kino Lorber sphere?
Definitely. I mean, certainly I was there first as a consumer, but I've been writing a physical media column for various sites, currently for leonardmalton.com for several years now. And yeah, Matt Berry has always been very great about keeping me in the loop on everything. And I have to say, I'm always impressed with Kino Lorber's balance over the course of a given month, where you guys will be getting into, recent art house and documentaries, but also kind of digging into studio archives and, finding the treasures that maybe other people don't realize they're sitting on. I had the good fortune to be involved in. Actually, no, scratch that part. That's a different label. Never mind. But anyway, yes, I'm a big fan of everything you guys do over there.
Amazing. So I mean, you're obviously very much a film expert, undeniably, and also a film lover, also undeniably. What are your thoughts on physical media in general and owning your favorite movies in physical format?
Well, I think that we're just always making the case for it. And, it used to just be the idea of you want to have these films at your fingertips. And, back in the VHS days, even, I think there was a notion of you can't always rely on your local store having this obscure thing that you want, or that their one copy isn't going to get worn out or stolen. And then when we started moving to digital, it kind of became a thing of, well, now you have this great copy that you have on your shelf, and it's going to have these, commentary tracks and deleted scenes and all these other extras. So it's not just about the movie, but all of the stuff that goes with it. And then once we get into the world of streaming, it becomes an issue of, well, you can't rely on this being around if you don't have a physical copy of it on your shelf, even if you buy it, quote unquote, digitally from Amazon or whoever. They can just decide one day, no, you don't, and it's in the fine print that no one ever read. And so, yeah, I'm sort of constantly ringing the bell for the importance of physical media, how much it matters to possess these works that matter to you, because they are so ephemeral in so many ways in terms of rights holdings and commercial viability or whatever else. So yeah, I think there's always been a case to be made for physical media. It's just that that case has to evolve with the times.
Yeah, I was not happy the first time I realized buying a movie digitally does not actually mean owning it. It just means
Yes,
having it for a whatever period of time they decide. I was like,
exactly.
where is young adult? I really wanted to watch this right now. Well, what is there any particular thing that you look for when you are reviewing discs, 4Ks, Blu-rays, DVDs versus when you're reviewing a film in theaters or on streaming? Is it the bonus features that factor in, or how does that differ?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, when you're dealing with a theatrical release, the movie is the whole package, and it's everything that you've got to work with. But then once we get into the physical realm, it's the idea of how lovingly has this been put together. And there are people who are much more knowledgeable than I am about, like, sound quality, and about, oh, the this color correction is too blue. Like, I don't have an eye for that kind of thing, and I don't claim to, but I definitely do appreciate when someone has really made an effort to have interviews with the people that you want to hear from, or commentary tracks, or essays, or deleted scenes, or even just like I love things like trailers and TV spots, like anything that sort of, if I'm going to watch this movie and I want to be in the mindset of really focusing on all the things I can learn about this movie, then all of those extras play into it, and they give me a little background and they give me insight about, the production and the release and the reception and all of those different things and how they've changed over the years or not. And just, if nothing else, I think that even for a contemporary movie, you just want to have that sort of one place where all the goodies live, where there's a trailer, where there's a commentary, where there are interviews, where there's everything that's surrounding that movie, like, in a vault, and it's all there in one place.
Absolutely. Well, it's people like Frank who have really turned that into a fine art,
For
you
sure.
know? Yeah. Do you collect yourself? Do you have a collection?
I do. I have well, I say I have a closet. It's now sort of bleeding into another closet. And, it's the same with books where, when the shelves get too full, you have to sort of go through the painful process of editing. But yeah, I'm a believer in having stuff handy. And, I find it comes in, it's very useful for my day job in a lot of ways, whether it's, I'm reviewing a sequel or a remake or something, and I need to go back to the source material, or, a Linoleum Knife, the podcast I do with my husband, Dave White, which we've been doing for more than 15 years now. We have a Patreon, and one of the extras that you get as a Patreon member is a show we called Linoleum Knife Presents More Linoleum Knife, where we'll watch an older title and then just kind of spend 20 or 30 minutes really going in depth about it. And so, yeah, that's when it's great to have not just, again, the movie, but also all of that other stuff, all of those, the director talking about what motivated them, or the marketing materials, or whatever else, just to really give you more insight about that title.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have, like, can you think off the top of your head a top 5 most prized discs in your collection?
Oh gosh. I mean, there's a few that I'm involved in, which I'm excited about. So obviously those are special to me. I have over the years gotten to do some essays and some, interviews for things. So those are always special. But, I'll tell you, frankly, the release that I'm most excited about this year so far, has been the Kino Lorber 4K of Euphoria, because I'm old enough to remember seeing that movie when it came out, and even then it was a somewhat obscure movie that not a lot of people knew existed. And then it got one VHS release back in the day where MCA would have in very small print on the back, oh, by the way, we didn't include all the original music. And then nothing. Like, and I've been talking about this movie for decades, and it's that thing where the longer you go without anybody, putting it out, the more you think, did I dream this? Was this really did this actually exist? So I'm so glad to actually have a physical Euphoria to press on people now and be like, no, really, see this movie. It's so wonderful. It's been rescued from obscurity.
Yeah, it was one of those films that I had to. I had asked Universal about it a bunch of times, and they were like,
Mhm.
"I don't think this movie's with us." I'm like, "No, it's with you guys." I'm positive. So they had to really dig deep, and then eventually, um, it took a while for us to get it cleared, and then eventually got cleared, and then we commissioned some really cool new art for it.
Mhm.
We were, unfortunately, the three leads had all passed away. So
Yeah.
if it happened a couple of years ago, when we originally intended, all three of them were around, so we probably could have done interviews with all three actors. We were lucky enough to get the director, the writer-director, to do a commentary and approve the master. So, on a release like that, I wished we could have done more extras, but there was really not that much more to do. But it's still a good little title that I'm very proud of releasing. So
Not to be confused with the Euphoria that's on HBO Max starring
Yes,
Zendaya.
no, this,
yeah,
this is
Very different.
UFO Euphoria.
it's Euphoria. So this is spelled completely differently. So there's no
For
mistaking.
sure.
Alonso, have you've done commentaries before? I'd be very surprised if you haven't.
I have. Well, as far as like sort of feature length ones, I've done a couple, and then like I said, I've written some essays, and I have a sort of a long interview on when Shout put out Boom, the Liz Taylor, Richard Burton sort of infamous flop of the late '60s, which is John Waters' favorite movie, and he actually did the full commentary. But I did kind of an interview, sort of explaining the history of that movie, and I played a tiny part in its resurrection. In that, when I was running a film festival in the '90s, I got John Waters to come to Dallas to present it. And it was the first time, again, Universal, they had to really dig in the vault to find that they did indeed have a copy. And once I was able to get it out of them and get John Waters to come show it, he then spent the next 2 years taking that print around the world. Like he screened it at Locarno and Toronto and at the Walker and all these different places. And I was like, I felt like, okay, I'm a footnote in the resurrection of this movie.
You really started something, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you've written several books on film. Your latest one, Hollywood Pride, is a history of LGBTQ plus representation in Hollywood and how that's changed in the industry over the decades. Not just looking at actors on screen, but also the folks behind the camera. Can you tell us a little bit about the process of writing this and all the research that went into it?
Yeah, I mean, it was TCM wanted to go. This was a book that was going to be kind of a piece with Donald Bogle's Hollywood Black, and then Luis Reyes's Viva Hollywood. So they had done the Black perspective and the Latin American perspective, and now they wanted the queer one. And the book covers both the artists, like you say, on screen and behind the scenes, but also on screen, like stories and characters and the evolution of that narrative as well. So I was wrapping my arms around a lot, and uh, with a word count, definitely made it all kind of even more challenging. Thankfully, as I always say, I was definitely standing on the shoulders of giants. I had the people who had come before me who had really laid a lot of the groundwork for this. So on the film side, you have Vito Russo's The Celluloid Closet, and then later B. Ruby Rich's New Queer Cinema. And then for the kind of the artists behind the scene, at least up to about 1970, William J. Mann's great book Behind the Screen, where he gets, he got testimony from a lot of people who were working sort of in the trenches back then, who remembered, like, who was at the parties and who was kind of part of the sort of, closeted social circle, of the industry of that period. And then sort of, capturing all that and then bringing it up to the modern day. The book, I think, goes all the way up to Everything Everywhere All at Once. Um,
Okay.
yeah, there was a certain point where I'm like, look, after about 1990, if I don't include your favorite, movie star or director or film, like,
There's too many.
yeah,
Yeah.
forgive me. Like, there's just
Yeah.
there's so much to get
Which
to
is
here.
it's a good problem that there's so many that
No,
you
no,
to
absolutely,
include.
yeah, and I
Yeah.
think that in itself speaks to the evolution that this book is covering. But because it was for TCM, obviously, I wanted to make sure to really focus on kind of Hollywood's golden age, where I think for a lot of people, it's easy to think, oh, gay people didn't exist until somebody threw a brick at Stonewall, and then suddenly there they all were. And so obviously the fact that we were so much a part of the film industry from the get-go. Justin Simeon wrote me a wonderful blurb for the book where he basically said, this isn't the kind of thing where, like, queer people have to carve out their niche of what Hollywood is. There is no Hollywood without us. Like, if anything, straight people get to carve out their niche because
Yeah.
we did most of the heavy lifting here.
Were there any examples in your research that really surprised you that you were like, "Wow, I had no idea."
Yeah, I was constantly encountering folks that I'd never heard of who were major. Angela Morton, who was the first trans woman to be nominated for an Oscar. She came up through, or sorry, Angela Morley. She started out from, like, a big band, and then doing kind of radio theme songs in England, and then came to the US and, was a major sort of scorer and arranger and composer. was did a lot of the arranging for most of the big John Williams scores. So
Oh,
when
wow.
you hear, the music from E.T. or Superman or whatever, like Angela Morley was there, like, doing a lot of the grunt work to get that happening. And then, James Crabe is another example I love to point out. This is a guy who started out, there was a kind of an underground thing happening in LA of gay guys who worked in the film industry and drag queens, and they would make these wild, outrageous shorts that were sort of satires of popular movies, and they collectively called themselves the Gay Girls Writing Club. And they would screen these shorts like in bars or at parties or whatever, and they've since been restored. You can actually watch all of the Gay Girls Writing Club shorts. But then Crabe goes on to be the cinematographer on like Rocky,
Oh, wow.
so the fact that I think you have this period of Hollywood where any kind of queerness is very much behind closed doors and not talked about in a public way. As we get to the 60s and 70s, you could go from being this relatively visible as a queer person in the industry and still like work in absolutely mainstream studio projects. So he shot Rocky, he shot The Karate Kid, like movies that your dad loves.
Right. I
This
love
gay
that.
guy was the cinematographer.
I love that so much. I had no idea that F.W. Murnau was gay.
Yep.
Frank, did you know that? You did? Well, there you go. And, apparently Faust had gay undertones or
There's, I
subtext.
mean, yeah, there's certainly a way to read Faust where it's sort of like, is our protagonist going to like follow the pure woman or the devious man who's making him lots of promises, uh, there's a lot to read into all those, I mean, I think even sort of, Nosferatu and Sunrise, you could find the angle where there's like, okay,
Yeah.
if nothing else, just the way he shoots like the dude in Sunrise, like that, there's some male gaze going on there, Gaze. Um,
Right.
but yeah, you have these people who are present at the dawn of cinema, like Murnau, like Nazimova, who are really kind of creating the language of movies, and then once movies start talking, you've got like the George Cukor and all these other directors being shipped out from New York to like handle the dialogue because a lot of the dudes who were making silent pictures had no idea how to like actually have actors talk to each other.
Well, we have, 2 box sets on early film pioneers, the pioneers of African American cinema and pioneers first women filmmakers. Frank, what do you think about adding pioneers of queer cinema to the mix? And obviously having Alonso be a consultant and commentator.
We've, those are projects that Brett Wood oversaw, and he has been kind of quietly working on one. I'm not sure where we are with
Exciting.
right now, but it's something we have talked about in the past. Yeah, that would be probably the next one we will do. The problem with a lot of these box sets is rights. Even with the silent films and the shorts and there were different so getting all of them to agree to be part of the one collection, it's not easy. It's easier when it's a little easier because some of these films are now public domain, and I think it's a possibility. So that's something I think the next time you have Brett Wood on, you could ask him about it. But I know we've discussed it. I mean, that was the original. Right after we did the pioneers of women filmmakers, we started talking about that. So think about it. That was a few years ago.
Nice.
So
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, I'm gonna have to check in with Brett about that.
yeah, and we
Alonso,
released titles like Michael and many other
Different from
ones
the
that
others, I believe.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
you also wrote 101 must-see movies for gay men. And I
Yeah.
just have to say that I absolutely love the inclusion of certain films that one might not associate with a gay audience, especially the super uber macho ones, like Fight Club and Jackass. Can you tell us what is it about these films that you think make them essential gay watches for gay men?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the each movie has its own sort of different reason for being there. Jackass is a movie that, I mean, John Waters did eventually cast Johnny Knoxville in A Dirty Shame and talked about how much he loved the sort of sexual anarchy of Jackass. And one of the things that I loved about Jackass, I mean, still do, but I think that was particularly revolutionary about it in the 2000s when it first emerged was these were guys who were like constantly naked around each other and like interacting with each other in this physical way, and there was never a what we would call the no homo moment. They never kind of stood back and let you know, hey, this is just so you know, we're all, they didn't care. Like if you looked at them and their antics and thought they were queer, they didn't care. And I think that is an attitude that has grown from there and that we're seeing more and more, where to make a big deal about that sort of thing, to have the response of like, hey, just no, so you know, not me, is so not cool, and those guys, I think, were pioneers in making that not cool. Fight Club is, I think I say in the book, like, one pizza delivery away from being a gay porn movie. I mean, it's based on a novel by a gay man, and it is so ridiculous in its level of kind of male objectification and women are so tangential to Fight Club. It is so much about these men and how they relate to each other and whether they want to earn each other's respect. Like it is a whole kind of stew of queerness, but not unlike you might find in something like Red River, except that there are women around. They're just choosing not to like hang out with them.
I noticed that there are two films that that immediately pop in my mind in that same kind of category of them being kind of like traditionally macho movies made for men, but really have a lot like there's a lot of queer subtext,
Uh-huh.
and those are Point Break and American Psycho, and I
Yeah.
would love your take on those films.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think Point Break, again, there are women in that movie. I am hard pressed to remember their importance to the plot because that is
Right,
that
exactly.
that whole movie is about Keanu Reeves and Patrick Swayze sort of trying to like, you know, wanting each other's respect, wanting each other's affirmation, and it's. I'm always reminded of the old guy on the porch in It's a Wonderful Life who says, "Why don't you kiss her already instead of talking her to death?" There's so many. Why don't you just kiss already in movies? And yeah, I mean, American Psycho. So much of that film is about the sheer like vanity and body obsession of the Christian Bale character is not me. You could probably tell. I don't necessarily fall in the category of people who are super obsessed with their, appearance. But that is definitely a very gay thing. And then again, like the women are so tangential, and it's about these guys, like if not literally, then figuratively having a dick measuring contest the entire movie and trying to
Yes.
one up each other, trying to be, trying to have the coolest card or the coolest, whatever, get the right reservation at the right place. Like it's very catty, you know.
Yes, definitely. Wall Street bro culture, very catty,
Yes.
and also written
Well,
by a gay author.
anytime you have any films when it's two guys, buddies, you could always look into it and say, all right, this is Thunderbolt Lightfoot,
Sure. Yep.
that's,
Good
you could look
example.
at that. You could look at The Mechanic with Charles Bronson and John Michael Vincent,
Mhm.
which, supposedly in the book there was some mentions of that, but in the movie they of course left it out. But so I think if you actually went and looked for it, you would find it in a lot more movies. So I think that sometimes I think with something like Fight Club, it's obvious that Brad Pitt is, is as good looking as a person could be and he's in great shape in that movie and everything else. So there's a lot of other reasons why I think Gaiman would enjoy Brad Pitt besides the relationship between Norton and Pitt. So
No, absolutely. And Mark Rappaport in his essay film, the Lavender, is it the Silver Screen Color Me Lavender, really gets into a lot of different ways of sort of modes of expression in mainstream movies that have a queer reading that I think sails over a lot of people. Like he identifies what he calls the Oh, damn it. Why does his name fly out of my head? I'm becoming such an old man. The who's the sidekick in all the westerns? Uh
Frank should know this.
Which one?
he's
Side.
the like who's John Wayne's sidekick in Red River?
Oh, I know who you're talking about. Gabby.
No, it's not Gabby Haynes. I was thinking that, but it's
Uh,
hold
Walter
Not Walter
Brennan.
Brennan.
Walter
right?
Brennan. Walter Brennan.
Well, Walter Brennan is a sidekick in a couple of movies, Rio Bravo,
Yes.
and yeah.
Anyway, Rapport talks about Walter Brennan syndrome, which is the movies where there's always the devoted sidekick, like Millard Mitchell in several James Stewart westerns. There's a lot of it happening in the noir film
Well,
Desert Fury, I think. Where
well,
it's just
the
like,
Wild Bunch, even the Wild Bunch, which Ernest Borgnine's, he's the one character that doesn't sleep with women at all, and the one
Yeah.
person that he really cares about is William Holden.
right, Martin Landau in North by Northwest.
That's
these
obvious. That's obvious.
Yeah, that one's they're leaning on it heavy.
I mean, when James Mason slaps them, that's pretty obvious. Yeah.
Yeah, but those sexless aides de camp, who are just like
Desert Fury,
they're-
of
they're-
course. Those are obviously Big Combo. the Van
Yes.
Cleef and those
Oh
were
yeah, Van Cleef and Earl
those-
Holliman and Big Combo
Yeah,
for sure.
and then there's
yeah.
the characters in The Third Man, and all those were pretty obvious. But
Mm.
I think that there's other ones that you could call they have scenes that could be considered homoerotic, and
Sure.
John Woo's the killer. The two characters.
Yeah.
That's you could like I said, you could there's a lot of films that have. But it's also, films about two men becoming friends, and also two straight men could be, they could love each other and just
Absolutely, and I'm not trying to ruin it for anybody.
no,
But
that's the thing. It would never ruin. It would never ruin it for me. But I know there's some people who would ruin it for, like a person that's, they may look at the film the next time they may look at the film, they may look at it a little bit differently because of what you and I have just said.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
I don't want to
think
ruin.
there's a level-
I don't want to ruin Thunderbolt and Lightfoot for anybody, but I'm just saying. It
think
could
you
also
could-
be
you-
like a mentor, older brother, younger brother. It could also be
Sure.
that.
You can. I think you could use the word homosocial to review or to refer to a
Yeah.
lot of this stuff. Where even if it remains fiercely platonic, there is sort of like a deeper level of connection. Between the two characters. I mean, Gore Vidal tells the story about Ben-Hur and sort of telling
that's
Stephen Boyd to play the subtext, and you watch that clip and you're like, Stephen Boyd's doing it.
Stephen
is
Boyd in that
cruising Charlton
movie
Heston
is
hard,
is without a doubt the whole film. There's no secret that he's in love with Charlton Heston, and
Yeah.
he's scorned, and that's why he's
and
punishing
then he
him.
must destroy him. Yes.
Yeah, he must destroy him. And even at the point when he's dying, his last breath, there is that. So there's no doubt. And I know in that case, they told him to overplay it and never told Heston about it. Because
Right.
Heston was.
Would not be down.
He would have had an issue with it. So.
But yeah, no, I mean, I just did a thing for the. I wrote an essay for there was an anniversary reissue for Big Combo, and yeah, like Lee Van Cleef and Earl Holliman are playing these henchmen in a way that so sailed over the heads of the Hays Code because they're criminals, they're gangsters, they're violent. And so, I'm sure for a lot of people back then, and even to this day, if you come on screen, reeking of lavender with your pinky out, everybody's like, gay guy, But if you're two guys who slap people around and shoot them, but then you also, share an apartment and wear bathrobes when you're at home together, they're roomies. What are you going to do,
Yeah, there's no doubt. I wrote a couple of screenplays. I copyrighted them. I never did anything with them, but it was a crime story that I based. The two characters, without a doubt, were based on the two characters in Combo because I always found that funny. See, the thing is that you have to understand that those B movies kind of went under the radar. And those people representing those movies were very, very intelligent. So whenever something came up and somebody mentioned something, they would make it, well, that's your mind. That's in your mind. Why would you even say that? And so they would really get away. There's this explanation of scenes in Detour where, he kind of goes down, and then they were like, well, how the hell, supposedly the director pretty much said, I don't know what are you talking about, so,
Yeah,
but
Big
he knew what
Combo is
he's,
one of those too. Richard
yeah.
Conte goes like lowers in the frame, and you just see the woman's face, and it's like, I don't know what you mean. What? How dare you?
Get your mind out of the gutter.
Right. So they were very, very smart. That's why film noir is so incredible, because you had all these B movies kind of getting away with murder at that time, which was amazing.
Well, since this is Pride Month, or this is going to come out at least during Pride Month, this episode, I would love to hear both of Alonso. I'd love for you to distill your 101 movies down into maybe like a top 5, if you
Oh
can, of like
man.
the ultimate, gay movies, queer movies. And Frank, I'd love to hear your list too.
Well, I had
And I have a
5, and
few
now
too.
it's kind of become 7. So,
That's totally fine.
so I'm just gonna go. I guess honorable mention, I would say Brokeback Mountain, great film, and then Gods and Monsters. I think that's another one, which I think Ian McKellen is incredible in that film. He plays the great what's
James Whale.
James Whale. So the top 5, I would start with, in no particular order. I would say One Car Wise, Happy Together.
Yes, that's on my list. Like
It's
number 1. Yeah.
I think it's an amazing film. I would say the Wachowskis, Bound.
Oh yeah, that's a good one too.
That's
Gina
really,
Gershon.
yeah. Beyond the Valley of the Dolls. That's more of a campy one. The Sum of Us, I think, is like a really beautiful love story, and with Russell Crowe. And then there's Longtime Companion. That's another one that I would put on there, because I think from all the films that were made around that time, dealing with AIDS and stuff like that film really hit hard. I think it's like it's a great film. It's a film that I've looked into releasing, but unfortunately it's not available. So.
Oh yeah, that's that one. Just from trying to book that film for festivals, like there's some kind of rights nightmare that makes it very inaccessible.
Yeah.
So yeah,
well, I could tell you off camera how you may be able to do that, but
okay. Well, I hope you can crack that case for home video, because it is
home
well
video is more
deserving.
difficult.
And
I think screenings are probably easier than getting it released on home video. So
gotcha. All right. Well, let's see. Now, this is going to be off the top of my head, and if you asked me tomorrow, I'd give you 5 different ones. So,
sure.
Let's see. I'll start with a couple. I'd say, I'm of the right age where the new queer cinema movies were super important for me. So I would say The Living End and Go Fish. You bring up James Whale, so I'm going to throw out The Old Dark House, which is pretty queer in a lot of ways. Let's see. Todd Haynes's Carol. And a little obvious maybe, but Moonlight, I'll say.
Moonlight's on my list too.
You said Todd Haynes. For me, Velvet Goldmine is a good one too. So
for sure. Yeah, you can't go wrong with Todd Haynes, basically. I am thrilled, by the way, speaking of Bill Condon, who directed Gods and Monsters, that you guys are finally putting out Kiss of the Spider Woman, which is one of my, drove me crazy how briefly that film was in theaters. I was trying to tell people how wonderful it was, and very few people that I know even saw it. So I'm really going to be, trumpeting this new 4K that y'all are releasing to the skies.
But we're still hoping to have him on the show. Maybe I know. Maybe I think Rob Sweeney's producing producing the disc, so maybe him and Bill could join Alicia for an episode. So
that'd be great. Yeah, because I think it's one of the best J-Lo performances. It is a star-making performance for Tonatiuh. He should have been in I think seriously considered an Oscar talk this year. It's a great movie, and it's operating on so many degrees of difficulty in that it's the movie of the stage musical, of the film, of the novel, and it nonetheless doesn't lose its power. And I think that Condon is so uniquely suited to it, because you have to have a director who can give you a grimy prison in an unnamed Latin American country, and also the sheer Vincent Minnelli gloss of old MGM, and he nails all of it.
Yeah.
It's so
Well,
good,
I
and
really like the original film too. I thought,
oh yeah, of course,
William Hurt and Raul Julia were great in it. So
no
um,
question, yeah.
I need to
that
watch this. I noticed that on your best films of 2025 that you wrote for, I think, Film Verdict it
Hmm.
was, that there were a few Kino Lorber titles. So there was that one, which we released in physical, but then you also had Suleiman's Story, which we
Yes,
actually have on our digital on streaming as well. So yeah, that one, that's great that
yeah,
you have
no,
a very
that
eclectic
was
mix.
a real gut punch of a film, that one. So yeah, I'm glad y'all are getting it out there.
Well, I just to round out the films for Pride Month that are must watches, I have to say A Single Man should be
Yes,
on any list. That's Tom Ford's directorial debut. So
for sure.
beautiful.
Yeah.
And also just one more Kino Film Collection plug, but When Night is Falling by Patricia Rozema.
Ah,
Very,
yes.
very beautiful lesbian story. Yeah.
And you guys just did that lovely restoration of I've heard the mermaid singing.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, we have that as well. Yeah.
That's a great sort of like I was still in college, and so the new queer cinema hadn't happened yet. But that movie, I remember very distinctly seeing it, and it was one of the few sort of contemporary queer films I'd seen at that point.
Well, not to switch gears completely, but you're also the other area of expertise of yours is Christmas movies. And
Yes,
I know this is a topic that Frank and I have had some fun debating. What is considered a Christmas movie, what is not. I think we both agreed that Die Hard is a Christmas movie. What's your take on
absolutely.
Die Hard?
Oh yeah, no, I'm stunned we're still having the conversation.
yeah,
This is, you know,
It's been
the
put to
the
bed.
the heist, hinges on it being Christmas, on the building being empty, on there being like almost nobody in the streets. The music that's used throughout, the fact that the explosion at the end leaves the papers falling outside the building like snow. The wife's name is Holly. The action denouement involves gift wrap. Like it's a Christmas movie.
yeah, it has a Christmas song in the opening, has a Christmas song in the credits. Uh, there's no doubt.
Yeah. And just the way that they use ode to joy, and the look on Gruber and his accomplices' faces when the safe finally opens, like that is a Christmas movie moment where they're just that light hits them, and they have that just that they're so bedazzled.
Yeah.
Well, same question. Top five or roughly five Christmas movies. I know Frank prepared his list. I'd love to
uh
see your list side by side and see
So
oh
if there's
man.
any
I
overlap.
again, I have a honorable mention of Scrooged, the Bill
The Bill
Murray.
Murray one.
Mm.
Yeah, I love that film. But as far as my real top five is concerned, I've kind of broken it down to two all-time classics, two films similar to Die Hard that I consider a Christmas movie that many might not, and then the fifth one. So I'll say It's a Wonderful Life. It's still one of the greatest
Sure.
Christmas movies of all time. Miracle on 34th Street. But I also want to have a mention of the remake. I think the remake is beautifully done. I think Richard Attenborough is perfectly cast as Santa Claus, and then the other real Christmas movie that I have on the list is A Christmas Story, which is an amazing film. My two Christmas movies are, of course, Die Hard and then Gremlins. I just
Oh yeah.
so there's my top five Christmas movies. We've released at Olive. I released Bells of St. Mary, and here I've released Pocketful of Miracles, Holly and the Ivy, Christmas in July, and so I've released some. But Christmas movies are very hard to acquire because they usually do very well during the holidays. So the studios kind of know that, and they don't want to license them. Ice Harvest is another Christmas type of a movie. It's that.
Is that the
Is
John Cusack one?
Yeah, John Cusack and
Oh, the
Billy
Sure
Bob
Thing.
Thornton. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, the
It's
Ice Harvest. Yes.
yeah, Ice Harvest. It's Benton. It's a Benton film. So
Yeah.
Benton wrote it, and I think Harold Ramis directed it. So
Yes.
Oh,
Yes. Yeah, Cusack weirdly has quite a few under his belt because he's got Ice Harvest, he's got Rob Reiner's The Sure Thing, and then also Serendipity. Like those are all Christmas movies.
Oh,
Yeah,
I forgot
yeah.
that's
So yeah, he's our Bing Crosby, I guess. Um, okay, I would never profess to have a top five, but I'll say these are the ones that I'm most likely to watch every December. So It's a Wonderful Life, no question. White Christmas. Um, Not technically a Christmas movie, but Christmassy enough that I count it, and it's definitely one that we watch every year, and that's the Spencer Tracy, Katharine Hepburn comedy Desk Set. The musical version of Scrooge with Albert Finney from 1970. And then a recent addition for me, a film that I think is really great, and I can see myself going back to on an annual basis, is Christmas Eve at Miller's Point,
I'm
which
not
just came
familiar
out.
with that one.
It came out in 2024. It premiered at Cannes, and then it's Tyler Taormina, and it's it's a film about a family gathering in Long Island for Christmas, and there are sort of it's not a particularly plot heavy movie. You're very much kind of immersed in the family interactions and that stuff, but you sort of realize as the movie goes along, this is the last time they're going to do this. Like this is, the matriarch is ailing, the house is being sold. Like it's never said outright, but there's this air of melancholy, of this sense of like, y'all have done this for years and years, but this is the last time you're going to do it.
Oh,
It's a really
it
great
kind of
movie.
reminds me of The Family Stone, which I think that has a similar theme where the matriarch is, well, I don't want to
Mhm.
spoil it. I guess that's like kind of the premise, right? She's sick.
Yeah, people know, I think.
People know, yeah.
If you're going to watch a movie about an ailing mother at Christmas time, I would lean towards Arnaud Desplechin's A Christmas Tale.
Oh yeah, we're releasing his newest movie, Two Pianos.
Oh, great! We just
Yeah.
reviewed that. Yeah, you guys put out actually a film that I had not that I watched for the first time when I was doing the original research for the book back in 2009, which is the Ginger Rogers Joseph Cotton movie I'll Be Seeing You, which is a great film about she plays a woman who's been in jail because she killed her boss who was trying to assault her. He is a World War II soldier who's dealing with what they then called shell shock, but we now know as PTSD. And they both have been sort of furloughed for the Christmas season. And they meet on a train, neither knowing that the other one, is like heading back to an institution and not sure how to like get around in the world anymore, and kind of, find this love for each other, even as they're both in, dealing with all these other issues in their life. It's really gorgeous. Shirley Temple's in it and Spring Byington.
What's it
It's
called?
great. I'll Be Seeing You.
I'll Be Seeing You.
Yeah, I released that. Yeah, I released that a while ago. So, I have actually a movie that I just thought about that I forgot to put on my list. It's kind of a Christmas movie and also has kind of a gay theme to it. It's the Canadian crime film from 1978 or 79, Silent Partner.
Great one.
With Elliot Gould and Christopher Plummer, and like a performance that's hard to forget. But that's a very much a Christmas movie, and
oh yeah,
Christopher Plummer's character, there's things in there that
there's a lot happening with that one. That was one of those movies. That's like when people ask me about why I miss video stores. We used to have Rocket Video in Los Angeles on La Brea, and I would, when I was researching the book, it was the middle of summer, and I would always leave with like 6 Christmas movies. And finally, one of the clerks was like, "What are you working on? What are you doing?" And I told him, and they immediately like, "Oh, you have to do The Silent Partner." And that was how I wound up seeing that movie for the first time.
Silent Partner. I'm waiting to release it on 4K. We've announced it is coming soon. But we put it out on Blu-ray, but we're still looking for the film elements.
Yeah.
So,
Baby John Candy in that movie.
Yeah. We got
maybe your
John
next book could be both.
Yeah, we have a film with John
Go
Candy coming out very soon on Kino Cult on 4K. Early John Candy called Clown Murders.
Oh wow! I was gonna say John Candy and Cult.
I think he's called he's fourth or fifth bill in the film, but so that's something we're going to be putting out sometime soon.
Cool.
It's called Clown Murders. Just straightforward
Yeah, I
clown
think that's
murders.
I think that's
It
what it's
just
called. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I
Says it
wonder
all
what
right
that's
there.
about. Alonso, maybe your next book can be both Christmas and, LGBTQ plus
I
Christmas
wish that
themes.
if there were more of a Venn diagram, I would be all over it. But happiest season can only do so much lifting at this point.
Oh, is that
But
the Kristen Stewart one?
yes, but I'll tell
Yeah,
you,
yeah.
there was a big leap between the first edition of the book coming out in 2010 and the second edition that came out in 2025. In the first edition, I basically said, "Hey, queer filmmakers, like there are barely any like queer Christmas movies. Here's a niche that you guys could start filling up." And since then, yeah, we had Happiest Season. Even Hallmark gave us a couple of titles with some queer leads. So it's slowly bit by bit, we're starting to see more of a crossover there.
Nice. Well, on
Yeah,
that note, should we move
it's
to
a 1976 film called Clown Murders. I just double checked to make sure. Yeah.
Jesus.
But it's kind of a slasher movie, and not a very
I
good
would
film,
hope.
but I think it's going to be a fun
Shocker.
release. So
Yeah.
we're hoping to interview John Candy's kids, for the film.
Oh, cool.
Oh, wow. That would be cool. Should we get into some audience questions? Are you guys ready?
By all means.
All right. Let's see. This one is from Ryan Oliveira. Do you guys think the live theater collection from Kino Lorber will ever be given a Blu-ray release? Is there demand for them, in your opinion? What makes the capturing of theater interesting on film?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I'm so I'll be honest. I don't think those. I think those are kind of things that DVD was made for and VHS was made for. I don't think it's gonna be enhanced that much by putting it out on Blu-ray. There were, these are stage plays and stuff like that. But again, if it was shot on film, there's always a better chance. But a lot of these things were shot on video, so I don't know
Right.
how hard it would be. But
Well, Maliki Fallon asks, since Frank loves Grease 2 so much, any chance we can get that on 4K? If you do get it, can we get some extras and a sing-along version of it?
I don't know about the sing-along version, but if I do get it, I will try to do my best to do as many extras. Thankfully, some of the actors are still around, so
They just did it
yeah,
at the
yeah,
TCM festival with Lorna Luft, and I think
yeah. I think
Christopher-
it's a Paramount.
yes.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, sorry. They just did a screening at the TCM festival, and I think Lorna Luft, Christopher McDonald, and Maxwell Caulfield were all there. So like, apparently you're never going to
Yeah,
get its leading
it's
lady to talk about it, but a lot of the other cast members are very enthusiastic.
Yeah, it's a film. Like I said, it's like a guilty. I hate using the word guilty pleasure because I enjoy it. I think it's a lot of fun. But I also think that there's also a fan base that actually thinks it's better than the original,
Oh yeah,
which I don't agree
Is-
with. But
is
I don't-
I think the
Caulfield-
original is the original
I
is a
think-
really well made classic with great songs and everything. This is like more campy fun, But
there is a generation behind us that I think grew up watching both of them on
Yeah, can I
cable
have
and
that?
not
Oh,
never
little
thinking that they
sandwich,
weren't to be
but he
weighed
wants it.
equally, and that audience for the most part thinks that Grease 2 is better. Go figure.
yeah, I understand that. There are people that that like Staying Alive better than Saturday Night Fever. So I
No, there
I think
aren't.
yeah,
Nobody thinks that.
There are. David Delvell is a big
Doesn't-
Well,
he's a
okay.
huge fan of that movie. There's like a bunch of people that actually think, because here's the thing, Staying Alive is popcorn. You could put it in with a crazy Frank Stallone songs and older BG songs and
Right.
over the top Broadway stuff and everything else. And John Travolta is really beefed up in that one. He's in best shape of his life. And Saturday
so
Fever is
Saturday
kind of a
Night Fever-
downer.
Yeah, it's this grim drama that we've come
Yeah.
to remember because of the soundtrack. But then you watch, you're like, oh right, shit, I forgot that.
Yeah,
oh, and
it's
that
a very
happens. Oh,
dark
that other
film.
thing,
It's a very sad film. It's a very dark
Yeah.
film, and his relationship with his brother, how that ends, and
right.
the friend's accidental or whatever suicide, and his
Yeah.
relationship with the girl that is in love with him. It's just the whole movie is kind of a very sad drama, but it has like a great soundtrack, you know. So and it has a couple of dance scenes. So
Right.
overall, I think if you want to have fun, you're probably gonna have more fun watching Staying Alive, even if you want to make fun of it. For that,
That is
you know,
fun. Making fun of
yeah.
Staying Alive is a very good time.
This next question is for Alonso. Shannon
Mm.
Nutt asks, Alonso, tell us a film that you absolutely love that the vast majority of your fellow critics absolutely hated, and tell us why you're right and they're wrong.
Oh gosh. I mean, I'm sure there are several. Well, okay, the one that I always get a hard time for having given a good review to is this comedy compilation film called Movie 43. And it's
Oh,
not
I
defense
remember that. Oh
it
my
is not
god.
defensible in the slightest, except that I laughed. I laughed, and that was, that is the judge for me for a comedy movie. So,
Which
um,
vignette did you made you laugh?
I mean, most of them. I like the whole thing with the one with Halle Berry and Stephen Merchant, where they keep kind of one upping each other with these like outrageous stunts and stuff. I don't know. I just maybe I was just in the right mood that day. Maybe I hadn't slept enough. I don't know, but I
It is kind of
laughed.
like a fever dream of a film.
Yeah,
The
I've
the
never gone
cartoon
back to it.
cat.
You know.
The cartoon cat. Speaking of gay overtones, not undertones, the cartoon cat and Josh
Yeah.
Duhamel.
Mhm.
If anyone's not familiar with this movie, you need to just look up that particular sketch.
Well, I also
I will say
remember
no more.
seeing a movie like Blue Iguana. I couldn't
Mhm.
find it playing anywhere. I actually released it now on Blu-ray, which is insane. But because I liked the film, I was like, I'm gonna take a chance on it and put it out. It's kind of a neo noir.
Yeah.
Has the Flea from Red Hot Chili Peppers in it, and uh, I remember I couldn't find it playing anywhere in New York City, like in Queens or any of the boroughs. So I had to go to Long Island to go see this film. Um, and that was a movie that got, I mean, every critic outside of Gene Siskel hated it, but I really enjoyed it. And a few years ago, I saw a film called Eye of the Beholder with Ashley Judd, and that's a movie that people were laughing in the theater and people were walking out. And for me to still enjoy it, not being distracted by all of that was behind me, says that I actually like the film. So so there's films like that that you kind of like and you want to champion, and
Yeah.
you know
Another movie that I always loved that I kind of felt like people just didn't know it existed and had sort of disappeared, and you guys did a really lovely edition of it not long ago is Some Girls, the Michael Hoffman comedy with Patrick Dempsey and Jennifer Connelly.
Yeah, no, that film. That film was kind of mixed. Kind of got mixed reviews. A lot of people thought it was going to be an all the way comedy, and they went in there and they were.
Yeah.
No, I've always enjoyed that film. I put that out. I remember Walt Olson, before he passed away from Scorpion releasing. He and I always kind of talked about that film, and every Jennifer Connelly movie I had put out had done really, really well. So I was like, hey, why not put this one out too? And it didn't do as well as, of course, as I hoped, but still,
Oh
I was happy to
no.
release it. So
Yeah, and it's a Christmas movie.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
there you go. Richard Hilton asks, would Kino consider a deal with Film Rise for the PM Entertainment back catalog? While some really awful movies came out of their stable, they also did produce some very entertaining B-movie action films during the 1990s that are deserving of a decent Blu-ray
We're
release.
always any kind of package that's available, any library is available. I know I would have no problem, finding at least a few hidden gems in them. So anytime anybody's interested in doing a deal, they know how to get in touch with me. I will hopefully have more time to start going out and looking for stuff. But a lot of these companies, if they're interested in doing a deal with us, they know where we are, and they could reach out to
You
us, and
heard it here first.
we
Mm.
would be very happy to look into it. So.
There are still some canon movies that I'm waiting for somebody
Well,
to give a
Canon
nice
movies,
Blu-ray
I think the
to.
ones you're probably looking for are probably with Warner Brothers,
Oh, maybe.
because Warner Brothers, for a short period of time, got the distribution right, home video rights for some Canon films. I think this was the time where they produced Cobra and Over the Top
Right.
and Superman, pretty much bankrupting Canon.
Yes.
But But also during that time, there was like a really good Michael Dudikoff thriller that has never been out. There's some really good little films, and even I think the fifth American Ninja movie is with Warner Brothers. But I don't know,
Okay.
which ones are you looking for?
Shy People and Barfly.
Barfly is, I think, with Warner Brothers. I'm pretty sure.
Mm.
Shy People, that might be also with them. I think that's also part of that package.
Yeah.
There's like, I would say like
You guys did a
15 or
nice
20
Apple
movies.
release, by the way.
Yeah.
This next
Yeah, we
question is for Alonso. Sorry, were you going to say something else, Frank?
no, go ahead, go ahead.
Okay. Stephen Prout asks for Alonso, big fan of Breakfast All Day.
Oh,
What is your
thanks.
opinion on streaming ownership and physical media divide as streaming services pull content we own less? Do you agree with the debate that physical is best and streaming is not worth the money?
Yeah, we tackled that at the beginning. I mean, yeah, obviously streaming is convenient, and if you're looking to watch a movie on your tablet on the plane or whatever, then yeah, you have to sort of deal with that kind of stuff. But as far as any kind of longevity, any kind of real true ownership, then yeah, it does come down to physical. And again, I think you're more likely in a physical package to get the kind of stuff that Kino Lorber is so great about, including, whether it's interviews and commentaries or trailers or whatever else, as opposed to just, the movie, end of story, that is what is on offer, on most streamers.
Yeah, and
Good answer.
we always go out looking for we always reach out to certain directors and actors, and we always try to get as many extras as possible, but sometimes nobody's interested in doing them.
Mm.
I mean, I could go back to Happy Gilmore. We couldn't get the director. We couldn't get Adam Sandler. We couldn't get none of the supporting actors. They were finishing Happy Gilmore 2. So technically, we could have actually just done the interview on the set of
Right.
Happy Gilmore 2. And it would have been easy, but they just were not interested. And so a lot of people, when they look at our release of a movie like that and say, oh, Kino dropped the ball and didn't do extras, they're like, well, we tried. We tried everything possible. Like, I know I have a movie coming out right now that I was talking to one of my producers, and I was like, well, these 3-4 people have all turned us down before that's in this film, but let's try them once again and see what they say,
I love that these people were not interested in talking about Happy Gilmore, but they were fully interested in making Happy Gilmore too.
Some people, I know there's some actors that they don't like doing them. They don't like the interviews.
Sure.
They don't want to revisiting the past and all that. They want to just look ahead.
Mhm.
Because it's not like they're going to get rich off these interviews. We sometimes they ask for a fee, sometimes they don't.
Sure.
But a lot of times it's the character actors that are more willing to talk about the film and their experience and everything else. Once in a while you get lucky, like when we did Indian Runner, we got Viggo Mortensen, who never does them, because
Wow.
that was like a movie that he loved. It was his first. We got Sean Penn because it was his first film that he had directed, and then we got David Morse. So we got the 2 lead actors and we got the director. So there's
Wow.
times like that you're like really surprised, but all these classics that I released before Robert Redford passed away. Every Redford movie that I released, we reached out to him. Every Faye Dunaway movie that we've released, we reached out to her. Shirley MacLaine, Clint Eastwood, they just, we got Burt Reynolds a few years ago, which was, really great, and once in a while you get a legendary actor, but most of the times you're going to have a harder time getting them, so.
Well, it's worth a shot, always.
Yeah, always worth asking.
Yeah. Okay. The Robert Inves, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing your name right. Apologies. Is asking Frank, has there been any progress in negotiating a deal to distribute the film catalog of Sanrio in Japan?
No,
I didn't know there was. I didn't know if that progress had started.
I don't think it had started, so I don't know.
Okay.
Internet rumors, people create them.
There you go.
So I don't know. Unless somebody else at the company is talking to them, I'm not sure. I'm not. So
This next question's for Alonso. Jim Chiappa asks, since Alonso had had a Hannibal Lecter podcast and was a contestant on Jeopardy in 2010. Please answer this question in the form of a question. Now, I just want to point out that first he asked, there have been three actors that played Hannibal. Name all three. And then he submitted another question and he said, my previous question had an error. It was four actors that played Hannibal. Please
Yes,
adjust it
that's what
accordingly.
I thought. I
So,
was like,
I was just gonna say,
I
yeah,
was
hang
like,
on.
so I did
All
adjust
right.
it. Yeah. So
I
name
don't.
all four.
Just for clarity, I don't have a Hannibal Lecter podcast. It's just called Linoleum Knife, and some people think that's who we named it for, but actually, it's a reference to the Aqua Teen Hunger Force movie and the song that
Ah,
Mastodon performs. Cut off your
okay.
lips with a linoleum knife. But anyway, who are Brian Cox, Anthony Hopkins, Mess Mickelson, and Gaspard Ulliel?
see, I
Very
forgot his
good.
name. I forgot his name completely. But I knew when he said three, I was like, well, wait a minute, did he forget
The
Rising, or did he
young
forget,
one.
or did he
Yeah,
forget the TV show?
Jim Henson's Hannibal, baby.
Well, he's also asking which was the best role and why. Which was the best for the
Uh,
role and why.
I mean, for a long time, I preferred Brian Cox's Lecter to Anthony Hopkins's. I thought it was,
Interesting.
look, they're all the big three are all good. I've actually never seen Hannibal Rising, so I can't speak to that one. I mean, Hopkins is great. Obviously, I find Cox is a little more menacing and a little less theatrical, but because of the real estate of television and the hours that he got to play the character, I think Mess Mickelson is the winner here, just because, even with Hopkins making like three movies, like there were, three full seasons of Hannibal, that he really got, uh, able to sort of investigate the nooks and crannies and do all kinds of different things in the role. So yeah, I got to go with
Well,
Mess Mickelson.
Mads Mikkelsen is like one of my favorite actors.
Yeah.
There's nothing he can't
It's
do
like
well. Yeah.
he's incredible. So I think, yeah, I would agree with that. I look, Brian Cox is a great actor and Henny Hopkins is a great actor. I prefer the theatrics of Hopkins, because I think that's what the character is. The character is very
Mhm.
flamboyant and very. So I think it's great that Hopkins does that. So I do prefer, of course, Silence of the Lambs, Manhunter. Which one do you like more? I prefer Silence of the Lambs. I
Oh
think
yeah,
Manhunter is
Silence of
also
the Lambs is a better movie than
yeah,
Manhunter.
Manhunter is also
No
really really
question.
good. I'm not saying it's not,
Sure.
but I think Silence of the Lambs is in another league. Great. So I would say Mickelson, Hopkins, Cox, and the Hannibal Rising. He just was kind of miscast. He was maybe too young and maybe too inexperienced to take on a role like that. He's not horrible. He's not bad, but he was like, I think he was like a male model at one point. I forgot what he was, but
Yeah.
I know he
Yeah,
passed
I think
away,
so.
unfortunately, very young.
He
So,
did?
yeah, it's
Oh, I
very
didn't know
sad.
that.
I think he died like a year or 2 years ago. Um,
Oh, wow.
but he's the movie's actually very good. It's very good. The supporting cast is really great, and that's a movie that I would love to release. But again, I'm having problems finding who the hell owns it. So, uh,
Yeah,
All
that
right.
was a
Well,
Weinstein originally, right?
hmm?
Wasn't that originally like a Weinstein release?
Yeah, it was, but I don't think it's with them. I mean, it's all
Hmm.
over the place. Some people say
Gotcha.
Sony, some people say Warner Brothers, some people say Lionsgate. Um, I don't know.
we have time for two more questions. This one is for Frank from Leslie. Leslie says, "Hi Frank, thanks for releasing the High Low Country and the Sabrina remake recently. I came of cinematic age in the 90s and I'm always so thrilled when I can upgrade one of my DVDs from that period. I was curious, of all your releases, what decade sells the best, and do you think there is any correlation between that and the demographic of the collectors doing the collecting?" It's a good question.
Decade is very hard to tell from what I've released. I would say probably the stuff that I've released from the 70s, maybe 80s. Those are the 2 decades that do, because I've released a lot of like major films from those 2 decades. Um, but yeah, I would say those are probably the two best decades. What was that a question? I'm sorry.
Do you think there's a correlation between the decade that does the best and the demographic of the collectors who are buying from us?
Well, the films that do the best on 4K and on Blu-ray are usually more genre-driven films. Action films, thrillers, horror films. and of course sci-fi. Um, and the ones that were made in the 70s and 80s are probably better than the ones that are made today. So that's the reason, I think, why those 2 decades are the most successful decades, because we released a lot of key titles from those 2 decades.
It's a chicken or the egg question because we release so many films from the 70s and 80s that just happens it kind of does match our buyer demographic, right? But if we were to release more films, newer films, would that demographic shift? It's a food for
Yes and
thought.
no. I mean, depending, they're not gonna. You were never gonna get to license like John Wick and stuff like that. Those are not gonna be available to us because the studios, or
Sure. We did do a bottoms, you know.
or the border Born Identity films or any of those type of things. Those are gonna be the studios are gonna hold on to those films for as long as they can. So what's gonna be available for me from the last couple of decades is gonna be the lesser. And again, I don't mean by lesser because I think Ronin did very well for us, but a film like Ronin will be available to us. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind will be available to us. Brokeback Mountain will be available to
Great
us. And
movie.
those are all very good films and they're all very good sellers. But a film like To Live and Die in LA sells twice as much as something like Ronin. So
Yeah. By the way, speaking of bottoms, great queer movie.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes.
All right, last question. This one's for Alonso, from Dana Maif. For Alonso, can you think of any specific things that aren't used enough in current queer films? Also, what have you found to be the biggest changes in queer films over the years?
That aren't used enough. I, I'm not really sure. I think it is sort of this kind of constantly evolving thing. I mean, certainly when I was working with Outfest in the 2000s and 2010s, we saw this sort of cresting of the coming out story wave, where you could tell we sort of moved past a point where that was a movie that people in the US felt like that they needed to keep making. But then it did start popping up from other parts of the world where like that was sort of the beginnings of that country's queer cinema. So suddenly you'd have like the Bermuda coming out film or the South Korean coming out film, and so it was kind of fascinating to watch how that would change around as it went along. I think also one of the things that's great about queer film now that again I think reflects the world that we live in is that queerness isn't a plot point. It's not about, oh, are they going to find out or am I going to tell this person? Like we start with this person is queer, everybody in their life knows it, and then what happens? And so I think that's great because while obviously for a lot of people in a lot of circumstances, coming out is still difficult. I think that story's been told quite a bit, and sure, there are always new ways to tell a story that you think you've seen a million times. But I do like the idea about people who are already sort of fully formed as queer people, having romances, having adventures, having dramatic situations, whatever it is, and kind of getting to move past that as what the story is and just letting them get to be human beings in a narrative.
I have a
Yeah.
question. I have a question for you. Because I have a friend of mine who's about 10 years older than me, and he's always had an issue with the word queer because to him, at a certain point, the word queer was kind of used in a very negative way,
Sure.
similar to the F word and everything else. So, uh, at what point did the gay community decided to say we're going to embrace that word and they're going to make it ours and not be what
Yeah.
it was? Because in the 60s, 70s, that word was used
Sure.
in a very negative way.
No, it was absolutely a slur. And I think part of the reclaiming of that word was a sort of position of power of like, you know what? We get to call ourselves that. We get to use that word. And I hopefully will defang other people trying to fling it at us. Historically, you can point to an organization called Queer Nation that emerged in the mid to late 80s, sort of concurrent with ACT UP. And whereas ACT UP was really focused on changing AIDS policy and, making, medications available and dealing with discrimination, Queer Nation was very specifically about queer visibility. And so it was like, we're going to go to the mall and hold hands, or we're going to go to the mall and have a kiss in or whatever. We're going to do things in public to put ourselves in direct view of other people and be unapologetic about that. And so, and when that happened, there was a lot of controversy about that because within the community, yes, a lot of people saw the word queer as something that had been hurled at them throughout their childhood and adolescence, and they never wanted to hear again, even in a context where it was being, where the meaning was being shifted and it was being used by the people who, were taking possession of that word. But then you had Queer Eye for the Straight Guy, come on television in the 2000s. And so I think, it's not uncommon now if you're going to have subject matter like this in a college that it's called queer studies. So I think the word has been pretty successfully mainstreamed. Not everybody has to like it. Everybody has their own history with it. And I'm not saying that your friend has to abandon that. If those are their feelings about that word, then they shouldn't use it. But I am of that generation that really was reclaiming it. And so I use it.
Yeah, well, I understand that. I mean, I know that there was like a funny scene in Magnum Force where, where Clint Eastwood is talking to this older detective, and they're talking about the four young cops, and they say to Dirty Harry that I think they're all queer for each other, and he was like, well, if all the cops could shoot like they do, I didn't care if the whole force was queer. That's what Clint Eastwood says in that movie. I remember that scene. So at that time, it was still kind of a negative thing. It was like,
sure.
And then even I remember in the 80s, like just being around school and being in high school and stuff like that. That's a word that was used in a very negative way, but. Right. But I'm glad when people take the power, where sometimes we're too politically correct and too worried about
and I think we've seen that in other communities where they will take a slur and repurpose it for themselves.
Right.
And I think that's that can be a successful way of removing the power of that word of being like, this is ours now. We're going to say it, and I think, you see this in communities of color. You see it with women,
right.
Taking words like broad or whatever,
Yeah.
There's a lot of examples over the years, I think, of people taking pejoratives and making them
to a much
Bad
lesser point, geek. That's something that Quentin Tarantino early on said, I'm a geek, I'm a movie geek, and stuff like that. And that was something that was used or even the word nerd, nerd was used in a very negative way. Totally. And now people proudly say, I'm a nerd, I'm a movie nerd, I'm a music nerd,
It means expert,
yeah. There's a Jewish pop culture magazine called Heeb, I mean, like that, and that when I was a kid was a slur, So yeah, I'm all for taking the power back from the people who are trying to take it from you by, removing the language and making it, putting it in your pocket.
Oh, I love this conversation that just sprung up, naturally. Well, on that note, I think we do need to wrap up. So thank you everybody for watching. Thank you to those who submitted your questions. Thank you, Alonso, for joining us today and chatting with us about
Thank you.
Physical media and sharing your immeasurable knowledge on film. And thank you, Frank, as always, for everything you do to keep physical media alive. You can find some of the titles we discussed today, along with thousands of others, at kinolorber.com. The link is in the description below. While you're there, please sign up for our newsletter if you haven't already, and be sure to follow us on social. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We'll see you next month.